How the devil are you doing this fine day? Hope you're all fit and well. I'm not, actually. Bit of an upset stomach. So if you do see me just dash off, you'll know precisely why. Good morning, everyone. Hope you're all fit and well. Mark Whiting was the first off. Well, no, that's not strictly true. Dan Cullen was here at 6:39, but he then came back after Mark Whiting. Mark Whiting is there. Chris Ford is there saying morning troops. Ken Hatcher has arrived. Pretty good weather, I would say, down in Wales by the looks of things. Not bad here. Not as good as it was yesterday, but we're getting there. It's a weird show today. For some reason, and I don't know how this has come about, but for some reason, several of the items that I'm going to bring you today require a bit of explanation, which means I'm going to have to do more than just sit here and press buttons. I hope I'm up to the job. But here is one such item, just before we get things started. Friday last week, as some of you may be aware, that was the last day for the NFDC CEO, Duncan Riddell. Ever since we broke the news of his departure, even before the NFDC announced it, funnily enough, there's been a lot of speculation about who might replace him. And there was one name in particular that was mentioned a lot. Now, I can't actually bring myself to say his name out loud. Let me just say he was a very poor NFDC president. He was an even worse IDE president, and then he was passed over for a second run as the NFDC president. My final job with the NFDC was to try to make this guy sound intelligent. I failed. I mean, I'm good, but I'm not a miracle worker. Anyway, all that aside, I had put together a very brief, 10-second video that I was saving for the announcement that he was going to be the new NFDC CEO. But it now turns out that doesn't appear to be the case. In fact, I'm not entirely sure there will be a new CEO. It seems like they're shuffling the deck a bit. But the video, frankly, was too good to let it go to waste. So, here it is now. Yeah, if you know, you know. Who else do we have in the chat? Thank you for that, Chris. I'd already figured that out, but thank you. If the farts have lumps in them, you shit yourself. Yeah, it was a bit touch and go this morning, I have to say. I don't know what it is. I didn't do barbecues over the weekend. Nothing uncooked. Just sometimes it happens, I think. Mostly diggers. Confetti, he says. Why mostly diggers? Why confetti? Is it your birthday? Garvin, is it your birthday? If it is, let me know, because I'll be more than happy to throw up some confetti on your behalf. Yeah, loads and loads to get through today. So without further ado, let me roll the intro, post the question of the day, and get this show on the road. It is Monday, the 19th of May. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the Walrus of Demolition, the Lord High Chancellor of live streaming. In today's show, we're going to take a longer look at Volvo's latest articulated haulers. We're on site with Caterpillar excavators, Dynaset and the Law of Attraction. And in our latest look back to Bauma 2025, we have a mini epic for you. Trust me, I think you'll enjoy it. Plus, in my morning monologue today, Beyond Fuel Part 1. Yes, there's a series coming. But before we get to all of that, there is a small matter of today's mystery machine. So let me get the animation out of the way and I'll show you exactly what it is you have to work with. I need to say a very quick good morning to Jonathan Duras, who's back with us. And Jonathan is doing okay on the mystery machine. In fact, I think he got our last one. I think he correctly identified one on Friday, which was the the Cat 395 face shovel. It's not that again. Dan Cullen is kind of looking for clues. Is it a Chinese brand? You'll have to work that out. Here we go. This is what you have to work with. Do you have any idea what that might be? Looking for, as always, a make and a model, and I do need you to be pretty damn specific on the model, because the model is kind of important. What have you got on that? What have you got on that? Now, I've just realized that I haven't posted the question of the day. I was too busy reading the comments over on Instagram. So there it is. And while that's playing, let me remove that, and I will immediately tell you what it is that you're working with on question of the day, like this. Yeah, our question of the day today is health and safety related, and it's this. We are constantly bombarded by health and safety rules, regulations, briefings, toolbox talks, general reminders. But what is the one piece of health and safety you could quite easily manage without? Listen, I'm an advocate for all things related to health and safety, but is there one that you think, oh, gee, not again, not again? Is there something you hear too often? Is there a rule that is clearly just about ticking a box rather than actual safety? Let me know in the chat. Got a first guess over on Instagram. Garvin reckons that our mystery machine could be the Komatsu PC 138 electric. It is not one of those. Do we have another guess there? Dan Cullen reckons it could be the JCB 370X. It's not one of those either. Let me show you a little bit more. There we are. There's a little bit of that. Does that help you in any way, shape, or form? Ken, what did that say? Flashed up too quick? Okay, well, it's in the chat. It is in the chat, but it is. What is, well, game over on the mystery machine, by the way. It is. What is the one piece of health and safety you could manage without? Is it something that you hear too often, something you're just fed up with hearing, or is there a rule or a regulation or a toolbox talk item that you think they're just doing that to tick a box? That's not going to save anyone's life. But I can tell you already we have a winner on the mystery machine at 10:08. At 10, get rid of that. Bear with me a second. 10:08. Chris Ford got the right answer. At 10:09, Jonathan Duras joined in. But Chris was first. He said it's the Komatsu PC 220 LCI-12, launched at Bauma. Chris Ford, on the money, sir. On the money. And just to prove it, here we go. Let me roll it through. There it is in all its glory. My personal pick of the equipment at Bauma. PC 220 LCI-12. Congratulations, Chris. I will give you your 3 points right now before I forget. Now, let me have a very quick look, very quick count up. That's his third win this month. Third. 1, 2, 3. You are 3 points. Just 3 points. One win behind Dan Cullen. Oh, it's going to get tight. Yeah, Gary Muirhead has just arrived. Morning, Gary. Good of you to join us. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Hope you're fit and well. How was your weekend? How was your dinner? More importantly, how was your dinner? I mean, I know the food was probably excellent, but how was the company? Did everyone behave themselves? Are there any stories of drunken debauchery you need to tell us about? Love to hear from you. Okay, so it is time to get the show underway with this. Now, I said at the top of the show that several of our items today will require a little bit of explanation, and this is one of them. There are elements in this film that you've already seen, because there was a short version of this film, but there's now a longer version. Volvo have uploaded an extended version of their new articulated hauler film. Here it is in all its glory. And as I say, it is, there was, I think the last one was like 30 seconds. This one is 1:24. Enjoy. fantastic film, fantastic machine. Top work to the fine folks at Volvo. Gary Muirhead apparently did have up until the bill arrived, he had a fantastic time on Friday for his wife's birthday. Fantastic dinner. It cost me 580 quid. Ooh, I mean, that would sting for me. A Scotsman? Man alive, digging deep into the sporran for that, I would have thought. Chris Ford says, going back to our question of the day, what bit of health and safety advice do you find loathsome? Wearing a hard hat in the middle of a field when there's nothing else about yet makes no sense. No sense at all. Ken Hatcher says, nice trucks, but they'd send me to sleep driving them. Not if you could go through the splashy puddles like that guy. And if there were wolves about the place that you could have a look at. I think I'd be pretty keen on that. But yeah, fantastic machines. Anyway, let's crack on because we've got loads to get through. Back with Caterpillar excavators immediately after this.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
Yeah, we're off to the US of A now with a Caterpillar excavator customer who's quite pleased to be one of those.
We love Cat equipment because reliability, comfort, and performance as well. It's hard to beat a Cat. The Cat excavators are really reliable. We have to be able for them to operate. If they're not operating, we're not making money. If we're not making money, we're not giving our product to our client. So we have to be able to turn the key.
User friendly, everything is right there where you need it, when you need it. Got a lot of power, big bucket, load trucks fast, gets you in and out.
The Cat 340 stands out to me. I love running it, it's very comfortable, it's very strong. Whatever you need, it's there.
Why Cat? Again, is there another name that's more synonymous with earth moving? Allows us to be productive, to be efficient, and to get through our projects and be profitable.
Dependability, it's reliable, it never lets you down. You ask a lot of it every day, 10 hours a day, 5 days a week, and every time you hit the key, it's got to go. And if you want it to last and hold its value, then that's why you use Cat.
The most important component that Caterpillar creates as a value chain, in my opinion, is the support structure. They push that down through the dealers. Without their customers succeeding, they can't succeed. That's, I find, is the most important thing that Caterpillar does for us.
My daddy makes grease. It's the only American accent I can do. I do apologise. Fantastic machine and fantastic video as well. Dan Cullen, go back to our health and safety question. Being required to wear a high-vis top when in the cab or cab of a machine because of the glare off the windows. Yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely right. What purpose is a high-vis vest doing indoors? In a cab? I don't know. It's listen, it's the same as wear a hard hat in a machine. I've heard that before as well. Why? You've heard of ROPS and FOPS, right? Surely you know how that works. Very, very strange. Let us crack on, shall we? We're getting all magnetic in a moment with Dynaset.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
If you were here on Friday, you might recall that we brought you a Dynaset film in which they were demonstrating their prowess at cleaning roads. Well, now they're going to just demonstrate the law of attraction. Enjoy. Very smart. Going back to Gary Muirhead and his £580 dinner bill. I guess it was a sore one. I was looking to see if the toilet had a window to sneak out of. Bet you were. We've got somebody called Samuel Vino over on Instagram who is echoing what Chris Ford has said. Wearing a hard hat out in a field, ridiculous. Reminds me of the movie The Gods Must Be Crazy. Ain't that the truth? We've got an epic one coming up for you in just a moment. I'll explain exactly what it's all about in just a moment. I will explain about what I'm about to show you, but I'm just going to go back to Instagram with Samuel Vino. He is from Perth in Australia. G'day. G'day, mate. Thank you for joining us. Must be a strange old time of day. It is, what is it now? Ooh, it's 20 minutes past 10 here in the UK. What the hell is the time in Australia? Is it early morning? Is it late at night? I can never remember. So this is another one that requires a degree of explanation. Under normal circumstances, when we're going to produce you a film, I film a thing, we start to edit it, and then add some music that kind of adds to the tone of the film. Not this time. A few weeks before I went to Bauma, I heard a piece of music in a movie, and I thought, I'm having that. I'm having that for a Bauma film. Now, in the movie, this was the backdrop to a slow motion sequence. So I've borrowed a bit of that too. It is going to cause me issues with copyright, but frankly, it's worth it. And just one quick other point. There is a section of the song in which it appears to have gone very, very quiet. Don't panic. It's not a fault. The music does return in the most epic way possible. But this is my own personal recollection of Bauma 2025. Crank it up, sit back and enjoy. What do you reckon? Quite enjoyed that. Dan saying, looked like one spectacular show. It really was. And to be honest, I wish I'd had more time to work on that film, just to take a day to pull together the clips. But that's my bits and Fred's bits and all combined together, with a fantastic piece of music as well. Did you see the ground controls Liebherr 920 rail spec? It's sitting at 40 tons with all the weights on it. Did I see that? I think I probably did. And he also says that's different, black and silver Hitachi. Absolutely. Great video. Well done. Thank you very much indeed, Dan. That's about it for the main part of this morning's show, but there are more explanations to come immediately after this. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into my morning monologue, which is the first part of a three-parter, which I'll explain in just a moment. If you can't stick around for that, please stay safe, look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. I hope to see you again very soon. If you do have the time and inclination, I'll be back immediately after I've said thank you very much indeed to Jonathan Duras, who says smashing video. And as soon as I've said good morning to Joe Brown Construction Company over in the States. Let me roll this and then I'll get on with explaining what I'm about to tell you. Yeah, this is the last item that requires a degree of explanation today. While I was at Bauma, I had a lot of thinking time. We'd finished the show around about 5:30, be back at the apartment about 6 o'clock in the evening. So aside from eating schnitzel, I didn't have too much to distract me. So I'd started to formulate what I thought was going to be a one-off piece on the impending switch from diesel to electric or diesel to hydrogen, or possibly a combination of all three. But the more I ruminated on the whole subject, the more I realized that it would require more than a single story. It would, in fact, require three, with an intro and a conclusion. I ended up with so much of this stuff that I'm actually going to be bringing you all three parts here, with the first part today, second part tomorrow, and guess what? The third part on Wednesday. Once that's all over and done with, I'm going to make the whole thing available in both written and audio formats, complete with the intro and the conclusion, so you can listen to that or read it to your heart's desire. All free, all part of the service. If you're part of our WhatsApp group, I will send you a link just as soon as it's all done and available and everything else. But for the time being, first part. This is part one of Beyond Fuel. For more than a century, diesel power has been the muscle behind the global demolition and construction industry. From remote mine sites in Australia to crowded city centres in Europe, the hum and rattle of diesel engines have signalled progress, productivity, and profit. But that familiar sound will soon begin to fade. In its place comes a quieter revolution: electric and hydrogen-powered machinery. Cleaner, quieter, and potentially more efficient, these machines promise to lower emissions, improve air quality, and reshape how construction and demolition are done. But behind the environmental promise lies a troubling truth. This transition is not an equal opportunity event. It favours the giants: Caterpillar, Komatsu, Liebherr, Volvo, Hitachi, XCMG, leaving thousands of smaller equipment manufacturers at risk of being left behind or swept aside entirely. This isn't just an environmental shift, it's a tectonic market shakeup. The multi-billion-dollar manufacturers that dominate global construction equipment sales are uniquely positioned to lead this green transformation. They have the capital, the scale, and the R&D might to not just adopt clean technologies, but to design entirely new machines around them. Volvo, for example, has committed to phasing out diesel-powered compact equipment in favour of electric alternatives. Liebherr is trialling hydrogen-powered machinery in Europe. Komatsu and Caterpillar are reimagining machines from the ground up rather than retrofitted from diesel platforms. These companies aren't just reacting to change, they're orchestrating it. Why? Because they can afford to. Developing an electric drivetrain, integrating battery management systems, and optimizing machine performance is costly and complex. Building a hydrogen-powered excavator from scratch requires deep pockets, deep partnerships, and a long runway, luxuries that most smaller manufacturers rarely enjoy. At the opposite end of the spectrum sit thousands of small and mid-sized equipment makers who build everything from site dumpers and skid steers to mini excavators and specialty demolition gear as well. Many rely on off-the-shelf diesel engines from suppliers like Yanmar, Perkins, Kubota, Deutz or Cummins. They don't manufacture engines, they integrate them. These companies often operate on razor-thin margins and tight development cycles. Few have dedicated R&D departments. Fewer still have in-house software teams or battery engineers. Their business model depends on being agile, efficient, and fast to market, not spending millions reimagining every product line from the ground up. The transition to electric or hydrogen threatens to derail that model entirely. If battery electric power becomes the norm, smaller firms must wait for compatible, affordable, drop-in solutions from engine suppliers, a process that's already lagging behind demand. If hydrogen becomes dominant, they face even greater hurdles: cost, infrastructure, safety systems, training, certification, and component sourcing. Engine suppliers themselves are also navigating turbulent waters. Some are investing heavily in hybrid and electric systems. Others are hedging, unsure of how quickly markets will shift or which technologies will prevail. The result is a fragmented landscape where small OEMs can't confidently plan for the future. Even where electric options exist, they may not be suitable. A diesel engine offers robust power in a compact, affordable, rugged form. Replicating that performance in an electric package isn't always possible, especially in niche applications where machines are exposed to harsh conditions, long run times, and brutal power demands. With limited supply chain options and a growing list of regulatory pressures, many small manufacturers face a bleak choice: innovate or exit. And this is how markets consolidate, not through overt mergers or aggressive takeovers, but by creating conditions where only the strongest will survive. If small and mid-tier manufacturers can't keep pace with the regulatory timelines, infrastructure demands, and technological complexity, they risk becoming irrelevant. Customers will gravitate towards suppliers with future-proof products, fleet-wide zero-emission options, and robust service support. Meanwhile, the larger manufacturers will continue to benefit from economies of scale, government grants, regulatory influence, and the ability to shape global standards. They'll set the pace and the tone of the transition. Everyone else will follow or fall behind. And there's another risk here, more subtle but equally profound. Some machine types may simply disappear. If the economies of electrifying a low-volume niche machine don't stack up, it may never get redeveloped. That means loss of diversity in the market. It means fewer options for contractors with specific needs. And it means the erosion of the rich ecosystem of machines that make modern construction and demolition possible. Consider the companies that truly build niche products for very specific applications or for specific geographic markets. Many of those machines are already bespoke, engineered for particular environments. Electrifying them requires re-engineering everything: layout, counterbalance, cooling, hydraulics. For a company making a few dozen units a year, the cost would be prohibitive. In the name of progress, we risk sacrificing the very machines that built the world make the built world function at its edges. The danger here is not innovation, it's unequal innovation. The industry mustn't allow a green transition to become a green monopoly. There are solutions. Open source electric drivetrains could be shared across manufacturers. Governments could offer targeted grants to smaller firms, not just industry titans. Collaborative platforms could be formed to develop common electric and hydrogen architectures that reduce cost and complexity for all. Trade associations too have a role to play. By advocating for inclusive standards and resisting one-size-fits-all regulations, they can ensure that innovation doesn't inadvertently crush the very firms that bring agility and diversity to the sector. Finally, engine manufacturers, the traditional linchpins in all of this, must commit to supporting their downstream OEM partners. If they abandon diesel before viable replacements are ready at scale, they risk hollowing out the very market they depend on and that depends on them. Now, the shift to clean energy in construction and demolition is necessary. It's overdue. Environmentally and from a sustainability standpoint, it is the right thing to do. But we've got to be honest about the consequences. This is not a neutral transition. It's one that heavily favours those with deep pockets, vertical integration, and political influence. In our drive to decarbonise the industry, we must be careful not to de-diversify it. The market doesn't need fewer players. It needs more collaboration, more support, and more thoughtful policy to ensure the road to zero emissions doesn't become a one-lane highway reserved only for the elite. Because a cleaner future shouldn't come at the cost of a smaller, less innovative, and less competitive industry. I promise you, when I release the audio, it won't be me doing it. That was terrible. I can only apologise. But that's my thoughts. Anybody else care to comment on that? Impressive, but not as impressive as Garrick at Hillhead. Will this still be talked about in 10 years' time? P.S. I used to read The Sun. Yeah, I think, how long ago was that Garrick debacle? For those of you that weren't there and didn't see it or were unaware, Garrick decided it would be a great idea at Hillhead to have a pole dancer. I think she only lasted for the first day, after which it was decided this isn't a great idea. It was quite the sight, though, I have to say. So yes, going back to my morning monologue, and I will apologise once again for my tripping over my tongue. I'm not feeling my best today, so I'll use that as my excuse. If you are a Caterpillar or a Komatsu or a Volvo, a Liebherr, an XCMG, Hitachi, somebody like that, and somebody says, okay, well, you need to go away and have a long, hard think about future power, you can do that. I'm doing this off the top of my head. I can't remember, but I'm fairly sure that JCB has invested something like £100 million in hydrogen tech. This is what we've set aside to bring hydrogen to fruition. Now, in the fullness of time, that may well pay dividends. If we do end up at least partly going down the hydrogen line, chances are JCB will be at the forefront, along with the likes of Hyundai and Liebherr, and it will pay dividends. If you are Fred Blogg's Diggers, who just makes 20 or 30 machines a year for a very specific geographic market or for a very specialist application, you haven't got £100 million to spend on hydrogenization of your product line. There is a very real possibility, double possibility, that one, it could drive you out of business as a small OEM, or it might make your product basically uncompetitive and just prohibitively expensive to build and therefore to sell. Now, I would like to think, despite the somewhat questionable salute that Elon Musk gave, when he first came up with the battery system, when Tesla came up with their battery system, they made that open source. Other people could use it. I'd like to think that somebody might do that in our field. But if they don't, you think about all those little manufacturers. And whenever I think of little manufacturers, I tend to think about Italy. You get yourself over to the Motor show in Italy. There's the usual suspects. There's Caterpillar, there's Komatsu, there's Hitachi. You'd expect. But there's also 10, 20, 30 little manufacturers like, I've never seen these before. And you speak to them, go through a translator and you speak to them and say, how many machines do you make a year? Oh, at least 20. And where do you sell them? Oh, Italy. Whereabouts? Well, basically in the town where we come from. That's it. Can they do that? Can they do that when we go fully electric or fully hydrogen or a combination thereof? Probably not. Probably not. Will that spell the end of certain manufacturers? Will it spell the end of certain machines? It's an interesting point. Obviously, it's a little way off yet. It is a little way off. I mean, I'm doing this in advance. You see, this is like when Prince did Party Like It's 1999. I think he recorded that in about 1984 or something like that, because he could see the end of the millennium coming and thought, I could cash in here, a bit like Robbie Williams with his Millennium. Pulp with Let's All Meet Up in the Year 2000. They were planning. I'm planning ahead. When the day comes where we actually say it's time to go, ditch the diesel and go electric or hydrogen or a combination, people will look back in future years and say, that Mark Antony, what a smart guy he was. He predicted the predicament in which we find ourselves, and he did so 10, 15, 20 years ago. I won't get to bask in that because I should probably be brown bread by then, but somewhere in my grave, I shall give a knowing smile and bask in my own reflected glory. But that is one of my concerns. The fact that this does, there's kind of a double-edged sword here. I've seen some signs of it. There is an electric equipment manufacturer over in the States called Craic Equipment, who are doing like compact machines, so skid steer loaders and compact loaders. And they have ridden on electrification. They've sort of come in out of nowhere with a thoroughly designed electric machine, and they are staking their claim while the bigger manufacturers are figuring out, do we go electric, do we go hydrogen, do we go somewhere between the two? They've pinned their colours to the electric mast, and they've come up with electric machines. And they're not the only one. What was the other one? Is it First Green Industries? They've done exactly the same. So it has opened the way, I think, to a degree, to some manufacturers to come in cold. The problem, I think, that I was alluding to in that article or in that monologue was where you are an existing manufacturer of equipment where you've got a diesel power pack in it. And you're looking at the horizon thinking, I've got to basically design this thing from the ground up, or find an electric module that slots into this perfectly and that is reliable from a reliable manufacturer, that won't let me down, that won't damage my reputation. And I've got to do that while maintaining my cost levels at the moment. It's going to be tricky. It is going to be tricky. We're doing part 2 tomorrow. I'm just going to remind myself very quickly, what was part 2 about? Part 2. Yeah, we're talking about actually the global fallout. One of the things that's occurred to me with this, and I know we've been talking about the likely cost of used electric machines, because we don't actually know yet. Will they maintain their resale value, or will people shy away from them until the battery tech is proven, and so on down the line? We don't actually know the answer to that yet. Think about where a lot of our used equipment goes. And I realize we've got domestic markets for used equipment. So, somebody's done their I don't know, 8, 9, 10,000 hours on a excavator, and they chop it in as a replacement, and it gets sold. Might get sold here, might get sold somewhere in Europe. But a lot of machines traditionally have gone to markets where emissions are less of a concern. So, for example, Africa. You've got a lot of used equipment finds its way to Africa. Now, as it stands at the moment, I mean, obviously, bits of Africa don't even have ready electricity for lighting and heating and that kind of, or air conditioning for themselves. So they're not going to have much in the way of electrical infrastructure to power those machines should they be sold over there. In addition to that, if we start to phase out diesel and they're not ready for electric, there could be a gap between us phasing it. So diesels, we keep selling used diesels to overseas markets, Africa as another example. We keep doing that. And then one day, not too distant future, that supply will begin to dwindle because we're making the transition. Here in the West, we're making the transition to electric or hydrogen. So there'll be less used diesel machines available for those less environmentally conscious countries. What happens to them? We'll be discussing that tomorrow. Oh, excuse me. I think I need to go and have a long lie down after that. I'll be back tomorrow at 10 o'clock for yet more of the same, assuming that I am still okay. Apologies for all the hiccups in the article there. Just not firing on all cylinders today, and for that I apologise. But I'll get lightly rested overnight. I'll be back, so hopefully deliver the second part for in a much better way. And as I say, once we're done, to part 2 tomorrow, part 3 on Wednesday, I'll then put them all together with a proper audio reading on it, and we'll put that out, and we'll also do a written version as well, so you can read that to your heart's content. Everybody, until tomorrow, have a fantastic day, look after yourself, and I'll see you very, very soon. All the best.